21st, 1986, and we're on page 43 in the Hebrew edition and page 22 in the English edition, which is T and U, letters T and U. We discussed the aspect of Keta, the root. And that's where do things begin from? What is we might say, the first cause? The reason I say first cause, because in any series of evolution, you have a cause and the effect of which can then subsequently be another cause. Like the seed in a tree is the effect of a tree, but in relation to the following tree that will emerge from the seed within the fruit, which was the culminating step of the first tree, you find that the seed now is again a cause to subsequent developments and evolvements. So there is no such thing as primary cause and secondary cause, except within limited frames of reference. In other words, if we talk about one tree and tree number 2, we have then a primary cause and a secondary cause. But since we are making an attempt to remove ourselves from the limiting frames of reference that we're accustomed to, meaning a cause, well, that's the cause. The answer is there is no such thing as that is the cause. That might be the cause in reference to what subsequently evolved from this cause, but let us never forget that there was and is always a prior cause to this, what we consider to be a primary cause. With frames of reference, this is the Siba that we are discussing, the cause we are discussing, is again within a very limited frame of reference. It may be a reference of only 1 minute. It may be for some people a cause for years. But nevertheless, if we ever assume that the cause we have established as being the cause, then we have caused a limitation on our own thinking. And by causing a limitation on our own thinking, we have closed our frame of reference, and therefore, when we discuss elevating or achieving a higher level of consciousness, we ourselves are responsible for limiting or enclosing and subsequently closing the scope of what we can see or what we can't see. All right? The primary cause of all causes is the light of the Ein Sof. That we can establish as being the primary cause. Everything that followed was an effect, of which effects became causes and so forth. But the primary cause, Ilat Ha'ilat, as the Zohar explains it, is the first cause, is the Or Ein Sof, the light of the endless. That is the primary cause. Once we have been removed from the cause, which if we are referring to the cause as the Or Ein Sof, then we understand that the Or Ein Sof, as explained in volume 1, there is no comprehension. That means within our own limited frame of reference, we will never have a comprehension, because no matter how elevated we become or how altering our consciousness takes place, unfortunately this body never loses its place in whatever parallel universe we may achieve. In other words, if we break out of the original shell most of us were born with, and for most of us we remain until the day of death, we never leave that original shell. All of our thinking is within that misgedit, that frame of reference. But assuming for those who are seeking another another way of perceiving this universe, and through meditation, through tefillah, mitzvot, or whatever, we have achieved a breaking out. A breaking out. That is what Pesach is all about. The breaking out of frames. Where that took place was Pesach. So we know why flowers bud in the spring. Because that's when breaking out takes place. That means the cosmos tell you that I've created an opening. You want to move out of where you were? Here's your opportunity. Tap the cosmos. Move right up. That's why, even in the vernacular, in I don't know how to say this, bitui, but we say someone is confined in jail, you spring him. You ever hear that? You spring him out of jail. You spring him spring also means to jump. But no. You never move away from the original meaning. Spring is spring, aviv. Spring is spring. And spring means you break out of a confinement. You break out of a confinement. Yes.
If you wanted to practice those meditations to breaking out, would the best time be spring to do that?
Best time, and we have the tools, which is Pesach. It's not a religion. It's not a tradition. It's not a celebration. It's the machshirim. It is the mechanisms. It's the instruments by which we have been provided, by which we can spring out from whatever framework we are at a given time. That's what it's all about. While maybe traditionally it took on another tone, another perspective, but this is what it means. Now, in spite of all of the frames of reference that we can spring out of, because we understand these aspects of parallel universes, the reason we say parallel universes, meaning no matter how high you climb, the body, as long as you're alive, the body accompanies that flight into outer space, meaning you move away from your space, from your confinement. The body is there, and as long as the body is there, we can never achieve a comprehension of the order Ein Sof. In other words, that primary cause of the atom that they're looking for, that primary cause for the table, the primary of anything that is in existence, which is called the Ein Sof, we will never have a comprehension. The only way we can achieve some understanding of the order Ein Sof is by the way it becomes manifest. By the way it becomes manifest. By the way it's Yotzei L'Poel. And how does it become manifest? The Kabbalists gave us the language. There are 4 phases. Whenever the order Ein Sof, whether it's at Tzimtzum, at the very beginning, at the big metaphysical bang, or the physical big bang, or today, so far removed, nothing ever moves out of the developing stages of the 4 phases. Whatever seems to evolve, whether it's one's business, whether it's within one own's family, whether it's within one own's attempt to alter states of consciousness, whatever becomes manifest, Yotzei L'Poel, it goes out from core, from potential, like the Ein Sof, the Or Ein Sof, which is something that we cannot visualize. It must become manifest through 4 stages. That was the way the original light became manifest, the Or Ein Sof, and therefore whatever is in the seed, whatever becomes manifested at root, this is the way things will always operate. An apple seed, no matter how many subsequent trees evolve from the first apple seed, there will never be changes unless man interferes. When man has the right to interfere, man has the right to destroy, as well as he has the right to build. Man never builds. Man only maintains that which is. But he does have the opportunity to be lekalkel, to destroy.
Can I ask you something? I understand that, if I understand you correctly, when man is just building what is, in other words, he's combining the elements that already exist and forming them into a particular shape. But when he's destroying, matter cannot be destroyed, so he's not really destroying matter. He's dispersing elements that exist.
He's dispersing symmetry of elements.
Right. That's he's not really He's not making them disappear and no longer exist.
No. When you split the atom, it didn't mean that the atom disappeared. It now, where prior to this splitting of the atom, it was one unified whole. Along came man and disrupted the symmetry of the atom. And so things, while they exist now, do not exist in a unified whole anymore. Now we think that the atom is bad, and therefore they try to program us of the peaceful uses of the atom, but there can never be a peaceful use of the atom, because the peaceful use of the atom is in its original state of unification. Whenever the atom is put to use in a non-unified state, there will be, so we don't see it today, so now, well, do see it today. What about all the waste? What about, ultimately, some generation in the future is going to have to face up to a problem of splitting the atom. The world will be completely contaminated. We know that. Why are we doing it? Because man is the only animal, says the Zohar, that instead of running away from a fire like an animal will always do, he runs right into it. This is the other part, the paradoxical aspect, characteristic of man. So only man can intervene and disrupt the symmetry, but that's of course only to a certain point. He cannot go up to the Ein Sof, even in we can't say he's altered the state of consciousness, because if he's in the frame of mind of splitting things, then he's not looking at the universe as a unified whole. And the only way you can even begin to achieve an altered state of consciousness is to observe the universe as one unified whole. A Kabbalist or a Tzaddik did not see his family as something separate and distinct from the rest of the world. That's the beginning, right? That's the beginning. He saw this one unified whole. Someone wants to achieve an altered state of consciousness, he must observe the universe as one unified whole, as it began originally in the Ein Sof. Along the way, in the series of evolvements, the two systems, the unclean and the clean systems, came into existence, but that wasn't at the beginning. At the beginning, and as now, there was no disappearance of the beginning. The beginning still exists now. The beginning still exists now. It's only cloaked in many, many veils, in many, many klipot, so we don't observe it, but it doesn't mean because I don't observe it, the light is not there. So, the other, beside what we have learned until now, which has given us the basis for understanding not only volume 2, but all of the future 14 volumes, by the understanding of what we've gone through now. He's in T and U, or Resh and Shin in the Hebrew, he found a necessity to return to the understanding of these 4 phases by which the light of the Ein Sof becomes revealed, called the Dalet Pchinot, the 4 stages. I think it might be worthwhile to spend a little time again on the 4 phases and understand number 1, which is of course the primary reason we're going to study anything, is why was there a necessity for 4 phases, besides understanding what happened. But in Kabbalah we ask the question that scientists never have yet asked, not to study what is, but why it is. So in Volume 1, Rabbi Ashlag discusses the 4 phases by which every evolutionary process takes place. There's nothing, whether it's in the brain, whether it's the manufacture of a cup, whether it's the manufacture of a table, or relationships, all become manifest through 4 phases. Nothing exists that we observe that hasn't gone through the process of 4 phases.